New York City has just banned Airbnb, and I wish I could say I'm surprised. So let's dive into the specifics of it. Hosts can't rent out an entire apartment for under 30 days, and hosts can't have more than 2 guests. The only exception is if you have a permit and if you're present in the apartment the entire time of their stay. So as I mentioned, this affects Airbnb, but it also affects Vrbo, Booking.com, and similar websites. Okay, so let's take a look real quick on how it's presented on NewYorkCity.gov. This is called Local Law 18, and here's what it says. The law requires short-term rental hosts to register with the Mayor's Office of Special Enforcement and prohibits booking service platforms such as Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, and others from processing transactions for unregistered short-term rentals. So basically, the way that this is framed is just, if you're renting out an Airbnb, make sure you register with the city's government, which if you're not an Airbnb owner or a patron, it honestly seems like no big deal. So let's try to look at the city's perspective for 1 second. Basically, they're saying that Airbnbs are raising the property value and the prices to live in New York City. Also, they're arguing that renting out an apartment as an Airbnb has become totally unregulated. Now, I'll come back to this in 1 second, but I need you to do me a favor real quick. You see, I love getting to make YouTube videos like this one. And the only way that I can keep doing it is if you hit the subscribe button. Thanks. So honestly, I'm someone who absolutely loves the city of New York. But man, this is frustrating. To put it simply, this is elitism at its finest, because there's a double standard. They're not holding these regulations to hotel companies. They're not requiring that a hotel employee stays in your hotel room while you're there. So if you're one of these billion-dollar hotel companies with 1,000 rooms in New York City and you charge $500 a night, you're not being held to these regulations. You can charge as much money as you want, rent out every single room, and have as many tourists a year as you can fit. New York City already has a reputation for not being the safest place in the world. So the idea of renting out an Airbnb, and one of the stipulations to do that is that the host has to stay in the Airbnb with you, is absurd. But I mean, let's take a step back and let's look at this as someone who's, let's say, lower to middle class living in New York City. You've got a family and you've worked so hard to save up enough money to buy a condo or a building so that you can do short-term rentals and start earning money so that someday when your kids grow up, you can have something that you pass along to them. Just with the snap of their fingers, the city of New York can say, nope, you're not allowed to build wealth that way. They're saying, hey, look at these giant hotel companies. They're way more valuable to us than your small business where you only rent out 1 room. And I honestly think about myself on the patron side of things. I mean, I'm one of 6 kids, grew up in a big family, and it meant that traveling wasn't always cheap. New York City thrives on tourism. This is only gonna limit it. So let's break down their reasons that they've given to justify this. 1, they claim that Airbnb and that whole world is totally unregulated. Here's the deal. If your building where your apartment is or your condo is totally opposed to Airbnb, that's part of your contract. They have the ability to restrict those things. It's not like you can do an Airbnb and your building has no say over what you do with it. It's that simple. The decision is already in the hands of the building owner. And I looked at some of the stats, and yeah, there is a correlation between Airbnb prices going up and prices to live in that neighborhood going up. But for someone who's middle class and they've just bought property and they're trying to grow their wealth, property value going up is a great thing. It means that your wealth is growing when you're asleep. So I'll be totally transparent with you. I think that the reason for this law is because these hotels have been able to charge hundreds of dollars a night and they've never felt much competition. They're established and they're probably well connected to the city's government. This industry is a really tough industry to break into because you think about how much just land itself costs in New York City, and then the price of building a skyscraper and furnishing it with hotel rooms. Now, just the average person with Airbnb, it's incredible that they can start earning money just by owning 1 condominium. Like, that's the power of small business. Small businesses are able to compete with the hotel industry, and that's why they're threatened. They want to turn it almost into this monopoly where the only way to stay in New York City is by being in one of these expensive hotel rooms and not by paying the money to a guy down the street. Okay, look at this. The cheapest hotel room I could find in Manhattan was $280 for 1 night. I mean, that's absurd. And I had to scroll for a while to even find that one. Now, I don't want to end this video just being frustrated about the situation that's going on in New York. So it made me think through, though, what are these solutions if you're someone who is a property owner of an Airbnb in New York City? For one, I'm gonna put this out there. I am not in favor of class warfare. It feels like the rich are targeting the poor, but I don't think that the right way to respond is to try to declare war on the rich and try to destroy them. That's not gonna solve anything. All I'm saying is that from a legal perspective, it needs to be fair and have the same standards for a billion-dollar hotel company that it has for a guy who owns a condo. One option that I would seriously consider is looking into actually registering your Airbnb as a hotel. Here are the requirements for a hotel on the New York City government. It is a temporary shelter for more than 10 people for more than 60 hours a year. So that means that it does have to be a decent size to fit this qualification. I'm no expert on what actually qualifies something as a hotel versus just an Airbnb, but I would say that this is at least worth looking into. Second option would just be to sell the property. The market is still pretty hot, and so honestly, you could probably make some money depending on when you bought it. I know though that this isn't ideal because in the long run, you're not going to be earning money off of it. And third, to the New Yorkers, guys, it's time to elect politicians who actually care about you. I mean, I remember during COVID, they were literally sending COVID positive patients into nursing homes. These politicians, they don't care about your life, and clearly they don't care about your small business.